Welcome to the bonus episode, Tanya Talks on Many Hats of Business, the podcast. It is fabulous to be back with you, and today I want to talk about throwing in the towel and going back to work. On these short episodes, I'm going to be talking about some other things I hear from business owners all the time and to give you tips around them so that you can feel like the success that you are. I've been so looking forward to coming on here and talking about this. Mindset in business can take a real bashing. I talked about imposter syndrome in the first session, and this often happens in the lead up to uttering the phrase, I'm going back to work, or I'm thinking about going back to work, or I'm going to get a job alongside working on my business. And sometimes it can be external pressures from family and friends who don't understand what you're trying to achieve. If you are surrounded by people who haven't been in business, everything you're doing can seem alien to them and they don't know how they can best support you. Ultimately, they are worried for you as it seems like a large financial risk, and usually they do only have your best interests at heart. Sometimes it's financial pressures that can mount and cause you thinking you want to go back to work. Sometimes it can be a culmination of things and just not feeling like it's ever going to work. It can feel like there's so much competition these days, especially in the online space. I think part of that is just because it's so big. We can serve people in a lot of areas. So because of that, you see people from everywhere. Whereas in previous times, you'd have only really known about your more local competition. But really, though, there aren't any new messages, just new messengers. And therefore, you aren't usually trying to reinvent the wheel. Hence, there will be people doing the same thing as you. Because even if you reinvent the wheel, people will then copy you and do the same. So, highly unlikely that you're the only person doing what you do. And to be fair, if you are the only person doing what you do, I really encourage you to have a real look around that and do some market research, because it's not very common, and therefore there might not be a need for what it is you're offering. Anyway, business is very personal though, and it always will be. People buy from people. So finding your people is very important. Your ideal clients, the ones that want to buy from you and not someone else. And I think that often gets forgotten in this day and age because of the online availability of things. A lot of people, with the rise of AI as well, people remove the people bit from a lot of business where they can. And I think one of the things I will talk about this another time, customer experience is everything in your business. So you need to be bringing it in as much as you can. That's a topic for another day. Finding your tribe is also hugely important form of support, in my point of view. I didn't network for at least 10 years of my business journey. I was a young woman in a male industry and I didn't play golf. I still don't, actually. But a lot of networking in my industry was around, going to play golf. And also I had young children, and I've never been a morning person either. So breakfast networking wasn't really that appealing or out of the question in some ways. I live in a rural area as well, so it's never local. Most of the breakfast networking near me would mean I'd got to travel for half an hour or 45 minutes, which if you've got a 6:30 start and you're not a morning person and you've got kids to sort out, it's not really that viable or appealing. And don't forget, we talked about building your business your way, so I wasn't really in a rush to do something like that. But particularly when COVID came, so did a flurry of online networking options. So you can now find your people at times and venues or online to suit you. And when you start to feel like you'd be better off going back to work and plugging away at your business, this is when your business friends can really help, because they understand how you feel and they will have been there at some point too. I'd like to add a little caveat here. If you're thinking about going back to work part-time so that you can keep building your business with less pressure, then this can be a genius solution. But again, you need to be realistic and realise that it could slow your progress. if you're currently sitting around procrastinating all the time and not being actually very productive with your time, it might actually slow you down at all, because there's nothing like having limited time to spur you on to being productive, I find. One of my ADHD traits is I actually work very well under immense pressure, compared to if I've got no deadline. It's the worst thing you can say to me, do it when you like, because it doesn't help me to prioritize it. So yeah, always give me a tight deadline if you want something doing. But if you're thinking about throwing away all of your hard work and closing your business, I urge you to sit on it for a while. And you might think you have been, but sleep on it multiple times and really think about it. I know that so many people have considered this option just before they have a breakthrough. Even Denise Duffield-Thomas, or Denise DT as she's known, has had this experience. She talks about it in her book, and I strongly recommend you read it. I'll drop the link below. She's a big advocate of having like one product really that you're known for, but I think the first time she launched that, I can't remember how many it was now, but she didn't have that much of a take up on it, and she was considering this, it's not viable now, or it's no one's interested. And she's made I think she's in the tens of millions of dollars now from that exact thing. So it's money mindset, by the way. So yeah, just sit on that, because often with things as well, we can launch something and you don't get the take up that you want, and it might not make it as viable as you want, but that one time, that's going to give you social proof that you could use. You're going to be able to get reviews and testimonials from it. So it's often worth doing these things first couple of times to build up anyway. And also consider that when you're putting stuff out, it's very Insta-polished, as we talked before. So people don't actually realise. I'm sure people didn't realise that Denise's thing the first time had hardly anyone on it, and she probably really delivered really well. If you think about it, in the over-delivering, if you're delivering to a smaller group, they're getting a more personal experience. So they're going to rave about it. And then next time, people are seeing these really good reviews. So, you're probably closer than you think. And you really need to take the learnings and the benefit out of this situation and think of how you can turn these things into a positive. But trying to sell out of a space of scarcity is very difficult. And if you do take on a part-time job that gives you a more guaranteed income, you'll have less pressure with trying to grow your business, so it can work really well. And one of the things, I've done a lot of looking around in this space and learning, and the last couple of years I've been around in this space but not offering that many services myself, because I've just been building it up alongside my manufacturing business and really getting to grips with what I want my business to look like, and that building your business your own way. And because I follow a lot of people and I've met a lot of people, I've noticed that a lot of people have actually got other businesses and things. So, or they work for other people. You get some people where they're like an OBM, an online business manager for somebody else, because they're building an online business and they've got the experience, they can help someone else. And that's what people often do. But you wouldn't necessarily realise. So you assume they're putting all of their efforts and their eggs into this business basket, but actually they're earning money over here doing something else. So I think it's not something you even need people to particularly know about. I did have a guest on the podcast a while ago who was saying that when she was working with people, she said to people, are people going to choose to work with you, whoever it was that client she was talking to, if they think you're not putting your everything into that basket? Which she has a point, but she works very part-time and she's very vocal about it, building up a business only working a couple of hours a week. a couple of days a week, because that's what she's showing people you can do, which is great. But what is the difference of if someone's working only 2 days a week on their business and talking about that, if you were to go and get a job a couple of days a week outside of your business, but you were working the other 3 in your business, you're still doing plenty in your business. And it's all about having that freedom of choice. So it doesn't make any difference to other people. And you don't even need to tell people if that's what you're thinking of doing. Because if you think about it, if you just don't do client delivery on a Tuesday, that could be because you're having a day for yourself and going and walking in the mountains, or it could be because you're working in Tesco's. Nobody actually knows and nobody cares. I think we often believe, I'm a big one for this, we often believe that people look more closely at everything than they do. One of the reasons for me is because I actually do look quite a lot at stuff. But even if people aren't showing it, you can't see it, even if you're doing that kind of fairly deep diving, digging around with stuff. So given how much I notice and my attention to detail, I would say, like, nobody is going to notice if you do this. So take the pressure off if you think it will serve you. But do be aware that it could just make your journey slightly slower. But that is okay, because you've got to enjoy the journey anyway. And you're not going to enjoy the journey if you're putting all that pressure on yourself. I'm a big advocate of us building profitable and sustainable businesses. It's not going to be profitable if you keep throwing loads of money at all the courses to learn all the things because of your massive imposter syndrome either. But if you've got another job part-time, and since COVID, there's been a lot of jobs where, there's a big rise in that. There are a lot of them are work from home. You could be working in exactly the field you want to do, could even help you growing your business. You could be working part-time in that from your house and being really flexible. So do bear that in mind. And sometimes I think we just need a rest as well. Life, we all have a lot going on. And I think sometimes it's important that we just want a rest. We all do from time to time. So maybe just have some time out and reconsider your why you started this business in the first place. What did you set out to achieve? Who are you trying to help? What do you need to be different to actually achieve these things? What could you do differently to make it work? I think if you sit with some of those questions, and you might even need to do it multiple times, but if you sit for half an hour with those questions and really think around that, your ideas will probably start to come together. If you do want to run it past somebody with many years of business experience in different sectors, please do get in touch, because I'd hate to see you throw it all away just before you make it. Obviously, we can't kind of predict that, but, I'd be devastated for you. And especially if it only needs a couple of tweaks or some more patience. I've always said I'm one of the least patient people in the world, and I'm going to start talking nicer to myself about this, because I've realised that being in business as long as I have, I'm probably more patient than I give myself credit for. But I do promise, I've always thought I haven't got any patience, and if I can do it, you can too. So thank you for joining me for today's episode of Tanya Talks. And I'm going to be along next time talking about the elusive passive income. Goodbye.